Hi guys, today I have another update for my Project Pan Porn, hashtag Project Pan Porn. So this time around, I'm updating a slight bit early. I might still upload it on the same time, but I'm actually roughly about a week early. Anyways, the reason why I decided to do this is because I think it's time for me to switch out the palettes. So in my intro, I had a lot more explanation how I'm gonna do this project. If you missed that, I will link it up there, of course. But pretty much I'm just going to be panning two palettes at the same time. One is one of the newer palettes in my collection, the other one is one of the older ones. So that way I can work on both ends pretty much in my collection. And my goal is to hit pan on one shade in the palette, and once I hit pan on that palette, I'm going to roll it out and roll in a different palette to work on. So I'm just trying to roll in as many palettes in the year because I feel once I hit pan on one shade, I would get a pretty good feeling about the palette, and then I am comfortable with just moving on to the next palette, and I can make a conscious decision about what to do with the palette that I just recently panned. So with that being said, you know that I was working on two palettes in the last update. The newer one that's represented is actually my ColourPop Yes Please palette. I started to work on this just at the beginning of the year, so it's been in this project for 2 months. I will show you a picture where I was last time. I think that I didn't make too much progress on other shades other than the one that I hit pan on, and it should be no surprise to you which one I hit pan on. So right there you can see here, this one is Butter Cake. So I have actually a decent sized pan too. So the story behind this palette is that at the beginning of the project, I already have a really big dip in this Butter Cake shade, and I knew I was going to be able to hit pan on it real fast because it's just a really crumbly and powdery shade. So in the first month of this project, I kind of avoided using it. I wanted to try out all the other shades first and then, you know, use this when I really need to. So in the first month, I pretty much did not touch it at all, and I just worked on other shades. Second month, I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna use it as when I need to. I'm not gonna try to focus on it or anything, and of course I hit pan on it in no time. So this is what my palette looks like right now. You can see that I do have some dips in some of the shades. I use this color Full Zip quite a bit just to set my eye primer, and I use this one really a lot. This is Champs. It's a transition shade, but I have to say that on my eyes it looks more pink than peach. So I'm a little bit like iffy about it because I just feel on my eyes it doesn't quite look like what it is here. It always turns out more pink than I wanted. And I have a slight dip right there. You can see in this shade, this is Bling. I used it a couple of times as a all over the lid kind of smoky eye look. And then of course Butter Cake has a pan, and I use this one quite a bit too. This one is GNO. The way I use it is I will use a really small shader brush to deepen my outer V with it. I think I like that look. I think it blends pretty nicely with the rest of the shades, of course, as this palette does. And I used this one a few times. This one is Note to Self. I think this one, naturally, I probably would just gravitate towards it, but because of that, I know this is not a uncommon shade. I kind of try to avoid it. I just want to explore more of the different colors in this palette. So anyways, this is the progress on this palette, and I have to say after 2 months of consistent use of this palette, I feel a little disappointed at it. Please don't bash me on it. I know this is probably a very unpopular opinion, but hear me out. This is the reason. Like, I love those kind of colors. I think those kind of reddish, like orange or warm tones are right up my alley. They fit my skin tone really nicely, and I love the colors. I mean, right now it's not fall. This is definitely a fall palette in my eyes. But I mean, I still love the shades. Like, they work good for me in general. But the problem I have with it is that I wish it is only maybe like an 8 or 10 pan palette. I feel there are a few shades that are just way too similar together, and then when you blend them together, they just become muddy. They don't really show up in your eyes as different shades. So that just sets me to disappointment. Sometimes I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna combine like this color and right here. I'm gonna like use those two shades because they're like both reddish shimmery colors, but you know, one is darker, one is lighter. And swatched out, you can see that one is darker, but on the eyes, they really just blend together. You can't really tell them apart. I wish there's only one or the other, not both colors, because you know, you give me the variety, but they're not so different. So there's really isn't a variety. It just messes up my looks. And same story here, like those two reddish brown colors on the eyes, they just both look pretty deep, especially blended with some other reddish tones. Like they just look like they're all the same shade. For that reason, I'm not like the biggest fan of it, but I mean, the quality is good. I just wish it has a couple less shades in it. I think I'm gonna keep it in my collection though, because I do enjoy this palette. I'm gonna probably use it a lot in the fall seasons. The only thing is, it's possible I would just declutter a couple shades out of this palette, like take them out and just keep the rest of the shades. The other palette that I had in this project that was, you know, one of the older palettes, this one is actually a quad from Mercier. It doesn't have a quad name because this is a customized palette. So let me show you real quick. You can actually pop out like each dual individually, kind of like that. You know, you just take them out like this. So you can switch out each slot if you want to and then make your own customized palette. So this is where the palette is at right now. You can see that it really doesn't look much different from where it started. Yeah, there's no pan for sure. So as far as this quad goes, I am pretty disappointed. So let's see, the first one here, it's a creamy shade. This one is in the color Morning Dew. It's a matte all over the eyelid kind of setting color, and there's really nothing too special about it. This one is pretty creamy and it performs pretty well. I have nothing against it. It's just not a unique shade in my mind. And then the next one here is Sable. This one is a taupish gray shimmery color. It just does not show up on my eyes. I'll give you a swatch right here. A swatch is pretty good, you know, it's a taupey shade, but on the eyes I will go over it like 10 times and it just doesn't show up on my lids. I don't know what it is. Like I use my finger sometimes and it works a little better, but it just does not work as well as the swatches. So I'm really disappointed at that color, and I used it a lot. You can see that dip there. I hope you can pick it up. I definitely made a little dip. I tried it so hard and it just didn't really work out for me. The next one here is a mauvish kind of transition color. It's matte. I love that shade though. I think that's a really good color, and it is called Cashmere. This one, I think it's a perfect blend of mauve and just nude color. It doesn't lean too pink. On the eyes, it just blends everything super well and it fits my skin tone really well too. I love that color. It's a big thumbs up for me. And the very last one here is in the color Chocolate, and this one is like another one of those like disappointment colors. It's a really deep maroon color, shimmery, and here's a swatch of it. I don't know, on the eyes it just looks really muddy and it looks really dark. It doesn't come across as a maroon. It just looks really like a deep brownish color. I don't know, like it does not have the dimension. I don't care much for it. So 4 shades here. 2 I pretty much hated, 1 I loved, and 1 is just kind of like in every palette. I think overall I don't care for this palette. It does not inspire me. It does not have anything really great. If you're really just starting with your makeup, like if this is your first ever purchase, I think this is great because the colors are not so saturated. You can get a really good handle on them, and then you don't have to like be super careful with where you place your brushes and whatnot. It would almost in a way conceal your mistakes, but for me, I wouldn't say I'm an artist or anything, but I know what shades I want to use, and when I want to use those shades, I want them to show up on my eyes the way they look in the palette. So it's just not enough for me, and I'm disappointed at it. I think I'm gonna declutter this one. I just don't see myself reaching for it or even do anything with it. I'm just done with it. I don't care, and I know I didn't hit pan, but it's just not worth my time anymore. It's gonna go. So now you know that I'm gonna replace both of them. The newer palette that I picked to replace the Yes Please palette from ColourPop is All I See Is Magic from ColourPop. This one is new to me. I have used it, I think maybe 3 times or 4 times so far. I wanted to test it out to make sure that it works out for me. I think it works out fine. Like I haven't tried every single color in this palette yet, but you see some of the colors are pretty powdery. Like I've only used those 2 shades once or twice and you already see a dip because they are powdery, and that one too. So I think if I hit pan, I would hit pan on one of those like shimmery shades anyways. I think though, just out of the few times I have used it, I realized this palette is quite dark, because if you look at the middle row right here, everything is really dark, and even the bottom row, like those three are pretty dark, and you got like two of the kind of lighter colors, and you really just get like a few lighter shades on top here and right here. So overall, this is definitely a deeper palette, and I think it would work better right now than say in the summer. So I would rather just try to get some use out of it right now, because season wise I feel this is more of a time to use a smoky eye, or you know, things like that. Anyways, I don't have too much thought on it yet, and I'm gonna work on this and hopefully hit pan out a couple of shades. And the palette I have picked to replace the older palette is a quad, actually. It's not really a palette. This one is from Loreal, and the color is called Rose for Romance. I'm pretty sure they don't make those anymore. This one, I think I kept it mainly for this like pinkish purple color right here. This palette is really crumbly and really powdery. I don't think it will last me very long if I use it consistently. And I really just want to test out this shade and this taupish gray shade. I think those two are really pretty and interesting. As for those bottom two shades, like, I mean, I don't think there's nothing too unique about them. But at the same time, I haven't really consistently used them. Maybe they would surprise me, who knows. I just want to test it out. Like, I got this palette so long ago, and I don't feel like I have really used it or tried it out to form an opinion, which is kind of sad. Like, it's just me sitting in my collection, not really being used. So I just really want to try it out and then see where I'm at with this palette or this quad, and I'm just curious to find out. So that's my update. I'm sorry this is a little bit more on the negative side, because both of the palettes that I was working on last month just didn't really work out for me. I think I was just in a not so good place with this project, because in January I was panning Comfort Zone from Wet n Wild. I love that palette, like it was so good, and I didn't want to roll it out. I was like, oh, I have to. I hit pan on 4 shades naturally, and I didn't feel I had to suffer through it. Every single look that I came up with it, I loved it. So in February, it's not a good month for me. I feel those 2 palettes just didn't give me what I wanted, and I was just kind of like done with it. So I can't wait to start using the next 2 palettes, because it's just really, I finally put myself out of this misery, and I'm starting something new, and I hope I can discover something really good. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.